Skipper.
Now, how are you, horse? Now, we are live, folks. This is your weekly dose of Mauls, Balls and all, where we bring you a weekly discussion on all things rugby. And being a group that are proud supporters of women's rugby, our guest this evening is actually, no, I'll tell you what. I'll introduce my cohorts, or my colleagues first. We have Richard Holland, who is there looking at us. We have Dara Weston, who is there as well. Dara will be on stage with me and Matt Boland for our live show on the 14th of November. And our guest, now, she is a producer and a director of if you haven't watched it, folks, it's well worth a watch. No Woman, No Try. Victoria Rush, how the hell are you? Are you well in yourself?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Really good. Survived the Rugby World Cup and all the chaos that comes with it, and ready to go again.
There you go. But come here, Victoria. I watched your documentary, No Woman, No Try, when it came out a couple of years back, and I must say, I had to do a quick recap there yesterday. But I just think the tagline. I have more questions about it, Victoria's, but we'll start with this. Not just a rugby story, but a human one. I thought that summed up everything about your documentary. Who came up with that? Was that you?
Do you know what? I can't even remember at this point. One, it was a long time ago, and two, a lot of decisions were being made, and I had to make most of them on how all those bits came together, from like the branding and the taglines and stuff. And I couldn't tell you where I came up with the name, or how it came. It just happened one day, and we were like, "That's the one." But the not just a rugby story, a human one was the entire point of the documentary. It was about telling the story of individuals and the problems that are the challenges that people faced. They're not gender specific. Not having a community, not finding a place to feel comfortable about being who you are, being bullied, feeling too big or too small or not strong enough, isn't gender specific. And we just kind of have forgotten that a little bit. And talking about, at the time, talking about how women's rugby, or women didn't deserve to play rugby, or shouldn't play rugby, or didn't deserve to wear the national kit, whatever it may be, all boiled back down to, why do people play sport in the first place? Why do people play rugby in the first place? Because they found a community that makes them feel comfortable and safe and somewhere they belong. And that isn't a gender specific story. That is just a human story. And that, I think that more than anything was what it was all about. We weren't trying to convince people that women's rugby was better than anything else. We were just trying to remind people that women's rugby was for other people to have a place to feel comfortable, to have a community, to belong. And that's all it was ever really about. So take away all this men versus women, who's good enough, who's not, rubbish that was going around, and just say, we're here to tell a story about other human beings that have felt a way you've felt before. And if you just remember that, you'll realize why we're asking you to just invest in the game, so that more people have a place to feel comfortable, a place where they can go and be part of a community. And that was it, in short.
Come here. Sorry, Victoria. Did you play rugby yourself, or?
I did, yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
I started at uni when I was 19, because I didn't know women played before then. Played club level there, played for Yorkshire. I was up at uni in Leeds, and then played for Richmond when I came down to London, played for Harlequins, went back to Richmond, stopped playing at about in 2021, I'm going to guess. I was about 29.
Go on.
Was I 20? I don't know what year is it? I don't know. Maybe I was 28. I can't remember. Somewhere around then.
Yeah, just go with
That's
it.
all I
Go with it.
am
Yeah,
from
make it up.
The whole COVID thing through with everyone last year or so.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Work out how old I am from that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then went into the kind of like social production side of things. Like, you didn't ask my career history, but here it is. Worked for O2, who sponsor England Rugby. Whilst I was there, I was making No Woman No Try, because there's no money in women's sport sometimes. And then went and worked for Joe, you know. I
No, Joe.
also worked for Rugby Joe for a little while, and then set up my own just over a year ago. So we now have No Women No Try as its own platform, and All 80 Rugby, which is great. So that's
Come
again.
here, Victoria. Sorry, Victoria. Sorry, my apologies. I don't mean to cut across you. Would you make a sequel?
I would make another documentary. I don't know if I would make a sequel.
Right.
I don't sort of see the point in like the second half sort of vibes, you know what I mean? But I would love to make more about other nations, because I think everyone's at a different part in their path, right? The Red Roses are excelling phenomenally. We need other nations to catch up. They have stories to be told. We're further down the line. There are stories to be told. Like, when it first came out, the first question everyone asked me was like, "When's the next one?" I was like, "Well, nothing's happened yet. It's only been a week. There's nothing else to say." But we're 3 years further down the line, and like the US is becoming a huge market, and Ireland's got its own story to tell. Australia cutting their funding, there's a story in there. So there's loads of stuff going on where you could go and tell more of those. I just haven't done that yet, but I'd love to be on the path of making more now, like that.
Victoria, you just wrecked one of my questions. I was going to ask you about Australia cutting funding. Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? Like that. I get this. I get this on a regular basis. People anticipating my questions. So thanks, Victoria, for that. Right, you're very
You're
good.
welcome. I was just leading
But
you
come
in.
here, Victoria.
Yeah.
Thank you. I as I said, I watched it when it came out, and I got a refresher there yesterday. I thought Shauna Brown was brilliant in it. I thought Ugo Monye
Yeah.
was brilliant in it. Who now? My memory is like a goldfish on the piss, right? Who was the blonde player who you were interviewing? I thought she was very good, and you hugged her. She got quite emotional, and you hugged her mid-interview. Who was that blonde player? I thought she was very good.
Steph Evans, she's brilliant. Like,
Steph Evans.
actually, so yeah, she played for Bristol at the time. She then went to play for Worcester. She then went to play for Exeter, and I think has recently retired. She a phenomenal woman. Like, I love her to pieces. Yes, yeah. And that hug that you mentioned, that wasn't scripted. In fact, nothing was scripted in No Woman No Try. But specifically that moment, once when she'd never told me that story before. So when she told it on camera, we got to that point, and I was like, "Hang on, guys, I just want to stop. We need to just take a break. Let's give everybody a minute, regather, and then we'll tell the rest of the story." And there's a shot that's a wider angled shot of behind me, where you see me get up and go over and hug.
Yes.
And I didn't know that there was a camera up there. We just put it up to have like behind the scenes time lapses of setting up, filming, and putting back down. So that kind of whole moment was, I don't want to say luck, because it wasn't luck as such, but to have it on camera kind of was. And then we cut that scene together, and I rang Steph and I said, "Look, like, this is a huge thing to tell people." And it is, for me, that pivotal moment in the doc where we prove that this is a human story, not a men's or women's rugby story. But that moment of feeling like you have nowhere to belong is a feeling everybody has felt in life at some point. But I was like, I don't want to use it unless you're 100% sure you're okay with this being seen by the rest of the world. So, like, here's the scene. Sit with it for a week, make a decision another day, and let me know how you feel, because it's not worth a penny for us to use it if you're even vaguely uncomfortable with it going anywhere. which obviously, as you know,
Yeah,
there's no that's in it. But yeah, for me, it was more important for Steph to be okay than for us to use it. Like, it's just the bigger picture, you know. But I think because she was comfortable, it became the like pivotal moment for us.
and Victoria, on watching the documentary again, would there be relevance in making that documentary this year, or at the moment? You know, but particularly where women's rugby has come to, or what would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, from a Red Roses perspective, from a global perspective, you could easily tell some of those stories. I think, if anything, if you went trying to do globally, it would be hours long, because there's so many like nuances of the get. You couldn't tell a story of the men's game in a documentary globally, but to go and tell an Ireland story, for example, from where things have come from completely overhauling the team, changing of coaches, like shifting your sevens program. There's a whole history just in the island game alone that you could go and talk about, and would have its own relevant like audience. The Springbok women will have a great documentary in like 5 years' time, to go from where they are now in this, like, okay, we've turned up on big TV and people are going to follow us in 2025. By 2030, which is terrifying to say out loud,
Yeah, I know.
they could be a powerhouse in the women's game. So, like, what does that journey look like? That would be super interesting, you know. So I think there's loads of angles to look at it from, and you could go on shit on our Australia rugby if you wanted to. In the meantime,
Well, we do that
We'll get to
frequently
that.
here. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yes, but interestingly, sorry, go on there.
You'd need to take a ticket to shit in Australian rugby, because they not only did they cut funding to the women's, and they cut funding to the pathways, so the youth systems, and they cut funding to the sevens. So, like, after making a shitload of money from the Lions tour, with the prospect of making a shitload of money when the World Cup comes in 2027,
2 years' time,
just makes no sense whatsoever to anyone.
No.
But sorry, gentlemen, Dara and Richard, have you seen Victoria's documentary, No Woman, No Try?
I was going to sit down and look at it the other night, but unfortunately, I ended up in hospital. So.
Oh, you did actually. So you did.
Yeah,
you did.
so
you did. That's what
I
you
ended up tearing
I've
ligaments
had
in my
3
shoulder.
years, but you know, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Dara, did you see it or no? Or what? Or
I did.
You know?
I did. No, I thought
did.
it was very good. Very good.
You have to say that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's true. But no, I think if you're looking at making another one, Victoria, go to America, because honestly, the American system, the women's game in America, World Rugby will literally love you for it, because they get giddy about anything to do with rugby in America, and then Netflix will probably buy it off you as well.
Well, here's hoping. Hey, we'll see. Yeah. I couldn't possibly say, but
I would go for that, Victoria. I would go for that. Certainly go for that. Now, okay, Victoria, as I sent you the list, we were going to shoot the breeze about your. I would say very enjoy. I did actually thoroughly. I'm not just saying it because you're here. I did enjoy your doc. No, I'm not. I'm genuinely not. I enjoyed your documentary, but let me ask you, Victoria, in your thought process, why is women's rugby growing faster? And it was mentioned in the documentary. Why is it growing faster than the men's game, in your opinion? Now, we had Dennis Fogarty, who is the assistant coach for the Irish women's rugby team. We've had several other high-profile guests on this show, and they all kind of alluded to the thing, the fact that it was a combination of a few things. It was social media. It was the advent of the professional era in the women's game, which Ireland is sadly behind, England way ahead. What do you put it down to, Victoria, or do you have an opinion on this?
I think both of those are good examples of why. I don't think there's one specific thing, but an amalgamation of different points that have all come together to create the momentum. Like, you guess social media professionalization, absolutely, but both are social media, I think, quite separate, because the players are in much more control of that and are able to grow their own profiles. Look at men's rugby; nobody's really bothered. Anton Dupont, Sir Khaleesi, etc., could all be 100 times bigger than they are if they bothered to understand what social media is about, like Alona has. You can't be annoyed that the biggest rugby star in the world on social is a woman, because, quite frankly, women have had to work harder to get to where they are, because there is nothing available for them. They've had to find other ways of earning money, of getting bigger, of finding brand deals that aren't handed to them. But I think if you really want to boil it down to something, it comes down to the fact that there's been terrible business decisions around women's sport for the entire history of professional sport until around now. The numbers say that women's sport's growing faster than men's. For every dollar invested, they get more back than you do in men's sport, but no one's bothered doing it because everyone said women don't like sport. But they were only ever served men's sport as the example. So when you look at it from that perspective, if you're serving somebody something they're inherently not going to like, you're only ever going to get the same numbers back. But you've never bothered giving them something they might like to prove the alternative rhetoric. So now we're doing it. People are investing a little in women's sports, seeing much bigger returns for their money and going, oh, that's actually a really good business decision. It's like selling, I don't know, boil it down to selling men's clothes. Very few would be sold in comparison to selling them women's clothes, right? So it's kind of that, is inherently that simple. But put all of that aside, now we're investing in it. Now better business decisions being made. Women have more disposable income than they've ever had before. Women will have more disposable income than men by 2030. They spend more money. We have always talked about women spending more than men on things that we want. Merchandise, material objects. That's what we tend to spend our money on more than men do. But we've never given women the products to buy in sport before. And now we're doing it. And women are spending their disposable money on the things they want, which are women's sport, which are merchandise in sport. So there is a market there. We've just never bothered tapping into 50% of the audience before. And you open that door and, funnily enough, as a history with women do, you open the door for us and we flood everybody in. We don't close it behind us. We're like, right, guys, we're in, go, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
If I want to boil it down to something, I would say it all comes back to what I would call terrible business decisions, which are now getting better.
And do you think, sorry, just to put in, Peter, do you think a lot of that was because there was no women at senior levels in unions and things like this? And like the old Will Carling, comment about 57 old farts in blazers, who were trying to run a women's game, thinking they knew what women wanted, but actually having no clue whatsoever and no real interest.
In any other walk of life, all men will turn around to you and say, I have no idea what women think. Like, genuinely. I mean, it's a joke for the most part, right? But it comes from some truth. But when it comes to business, when it comes to women's sport, men have in history told us what we should do, like they know. But if you told them that at home, they'd be like, I don't fucking know what's happening. So It's kind of strange that when it comes to making decisions about, I know it's a joke, but it's kind of seems to underpin it a lot. It's like,
I know, yeah.
Yes, if you're in a room full of people who all think the same way, you're all going to make the same judgment call, even though there's nobody in the room that, if there's no woman in the room to be like, that's actually not what we want. How would you even know you're making the wrong decision? So in a way, you can't really blame them because they had no one to go to. They had no way of knowing what would have worked better, what wouldn't, what women wanted, because frankly, there was no way to find out. So part of No Women, No Tries, we don't point blame at anybody because I don't believe in blaming anyone for it. A decision was made, it was right or wrong, probably by somebody who's not even with us anymore. There's no point in trying to fight over that. But what we can do is go, what can we do now? What can we get right this time? How can we have more opportunity to make better decisions? And that's all it for me. I can happily sit here and blame people, but it's pointless, right? We can go, well, now more women are available in boardrooms. You can turn around and go, let's go and speak to our families. Let's go and speak to rugby clubs. Let's go and just speak to the women in the game and go, what do you actually want? What would work? Because I'm
Ask
talking
the
to
question.
friends at the moment about it and going, the women's game doesn't have any rituals like the men's game does because it's not been around long enough, especially at big enough international level to say, I'll talk about a Twickenham game because obviously I'm English and that's where I go. For the men's games, you go to the Cabbage Patch. If you've ever been to Twickenham, you will know it. You go there, you drink loads of beers, you walk down to the stadium, you might catch a beer or a burger en route, you'll get into the stadium, try not to buy too many Guinnesses for £9 a pint, drink a bunch of those in the stadium, drink in the car park, back to the Cabbage Patch. Within reason, and then you'll get home at midnight. That is your rugby day out. But the women's game, things are different. You have more children and families coming. We are now realizing that women do drink too because the girls get on the beers as well. But for the big part of it, women can't stay as late after the game as men can because they usually have priorities, families, things to do at home. They can come out earlier, but they have to go home earlier. So our rituals should be looking at the pre-game entertainment. So at post-game, those people who do have things they have to do, obligations at home they can't choose to get out of or can't get out of, they can go home for. So why aren't we doing brunches? I'm sorry, but bottomless brunches for the girls before a rugby match sounds like a bloody great idea. And that, but it's similar but different, right? And it's just bringing the women. You'll sell more rosé than you'll sell beers, bottle for pint. I'd put money on it. Well,
how much would you be willing to put on that now, Victoria?
I don't know. Depends. Am I at the game or not?
Very good. Very good. Okay. Very good.
Richard
Holland, any thoughts
on Richie's face when he heard £9 a pint at the match?
What?
His face just froze.
£9 a pint.
I don't know if it's.
Well, sure.
It's the same.
No, but Dara. No, I was going to say Dara, Victoria, Richard. It's the same thing in the Aviva when you go to an international. Yeah. Richard Holland, any thoughts on what has been discussed so far?
Yeah, it's just the way Victoria said it, right? It's a massive untapped market there. No matter what way you look at it, it's, as you said, it's 50% of the population. So if you can get them involved, in particular, as you said, there'd be more families. So that's another way of bringing it on too, where you're going to bring your son, your daughter to the matches, and you go, "Oh, can I try that?" Yeah. You know, it's a no-brainer. And as you said, from a social point of view, for men going to a game, is what happens after is where the fun begins. But for the women, as you said, they have responsibilities. They have schools. They have this. They have that. The afternoon before, we'd say a match is at 4 o'clock. You know, so from 12 o'clock onwards, it's a no-brainer really when you think about it. Like it's and again, it's a massive untapped market there.
Yeah,
I was just thinking when you were talking about merchandise when I was growing up. I have a sister; she's 2 years younger than me, and I don't ever remember seeing until recently is a ladies' rugby top. They were all male. Now you do get them now, but it's only in the last 4 or 5 years. You know.
Yeah.
But that's like unisex clothing, in my opinion, is an absolute cop out for the fact that we couldn't be bothered to make women's stuff, so we called it unisex. It's still the same size, the same shape as the men's clothes. Like I have hundreds of rugby jerseys. Weirdly, I don't have an Irish one actually. So anyone?
Oh, Victoria! My God!
I've got some Irish stuff. Hey, I went to the World Cup, the Men's World Cup in 23 with Canterbury.
I'm so disappointed, Victoria.
I've got a playing jersey, a replica playing jersey, but I don't have an old school jersey, is what I mean. Because I love old school jerseys.
Yes. Okay.
And I've got loads of them, and they obviously don't fit me anywhere on my body. But during the Women's World Cup, Asahi made some special jersey, like old school style jerseys.
That's right. They did.
Yes. Some of them cropped. So instead, when I wear a normal jersey, it comes like halfway down my thighs. It may as well be a dress, essentially. But these ones were cropped, and it hit my hips. And it fit me perfectly. And I was like, I don't think I own a jersey that fits me like this. So I've sent them all to my mum and she's going to crop them all to fit that one.
Oh, I see.
But I was like, there's a market there. No, I don't think I've ever thought about the fact that jerseys are too fucking long. So they don't go with anything that's, and rugby jerseys are in fashion.
I know, but Victoria, no, I totally agree with you, Victoria, because that particular point was brought up in your documentary, No Woman, No Try, that Shauna Brown was talking about. clothing and boots and
Yeah.
all this sort of thing. So yes, you're bang on, and I totally agree with you on that particular point. Yes, absolutely, yes.
Well, there's hope for that in terms of my wife is always saying, when are you having Willie Anderson on the show? When are you having Willie Anderson on the show?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
his son Jonathan is the head designer for Christian Dior.
Yes,
And
so
actually,
tracksuit
he said in
bottoms.
several of the fashion shows, he'd send out the male models in the old rugby jerseys. So,
Well, there you go. Okay.
You've seen recently, he in one of his latest shows, he had Dior versions of the Canterbury tracksuit bottoms, like the OG, the ones that we all wore growing up.
oh, the
And
ugly ones.
did he
The
really?
colors.
Yeah. And then where it says,
Ah,
how it says Canterbury down the side with the logo.
yeah.
Dior down the side. And they're honestly exactly the same. And I was like, how has nobody in rugby jumped on this? Nobody did anything about it. And I was like, this is insane. This is rugby on the Dior catwalk. Somebody do something.
Exactly. Now, that's a great idea, Victoria. We might talk off.
Can I ask one question, Victoria? Just with the success of women's rugby, so there's 9 teams in the women's premiership, and 2 of them are non-traditional clubs. There's Loughborough, obviously the university, so they're not what we would think of as a rugby club, but they're a very strong rugby university. And then there's Trailfinders women. But like, for instance, it's noticeable Bath, Northampton, and now Newcastle with all the Red Bull money, they don't have women's teams in the women's premiership. Have Bath and Northampton or Newcastle, have they ever had teams in the women's premiership?
You're asking me slightly too much detail to be 100% sure on answer. But I
just found it ironic because Bath, who probably the highest paid player in England is Peter is a great fan of him, Finn Russell. I mean, he's getting a million this season. And the fact they don't have a women's team.
So they do have
they're not strapped for cash.
Yeah, they have a women's team in the Champ, but I don't think the women's team is officially under Bath Rugby in the same way. So they are Bath ladies, but I don't know if they're 100% owned by the Met, the whole setup in the same way that you've got Bristol Bears and Bristol Bears women. So I don't know on the Bath one. I actually don't know. Whereas with Northampton Saints, they've partnered with Loughborough. So technically Loughborough Lightning are their team. On one shoulder, they've got the Loughborough Lightning crest on their chest. On their shoulder, they've got Northampton Saints crest. So they're kind of partly connected. And then with Newcastle, it's a really difficult one because there's a club called DMP Sharks, Darlington Moden Park, that's up there, that's had a women's team forever. Pretty much anyone who's ever played rugby in the Midlands or north of England has at some point played for Darlington, a bit like everyone who's ever played women's rugby has played for Richmond. They've actually folded last year for good, essentially, because they just couldn't fund it anymore, and Newcastle didn't come in and save them or absorb them. Clearly they didn't have the cash to, which makes sense, right? But Darlington was the closest they ever had to that northeast, and they were a huge club in terms of history in the women's game, but it just folded basically a year too soon, is from what we now know. They didn't get picked. They were in the Prem for a bit, and then when they came out of the Prem, that's when either Trailfinders or Loughborough or something like that went up, and it became sort of what it is now. So those are the 3 reasons for each of them. I don't know exactly who's been in and out of the Prem in the modern iteration of it, because there's been a few Prems for women that flipping around, but I think the one we have now, PWR, is we're dead set on this.
So look, Victoria, we haven't a clue what we're talking about half time anyway, so
that's right then.
Well, there you go. Okay, just a few comments from people watching. Luke Conway, evening everyone. Hope all is well. Hello, Luke. Our colleague James Grennan, evening Victoria. Great to see you on our wee show. Regards, James. Gregor Galway. Hi, Gregor. Evening all. James Grennan says, talking about jerseys, Victoria, what you're talking about. My wife and my daughter definitely know how to spend more money.
Well,
And we
just
should
on-
mention
on-
that James, his daughter Maeve, is on the Connacht, I think, under 18s team.
Yeah.
And she's
Under-
very, very
yeah,
promising
well,
player.
yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah.
we'll see her on the Irish underage setup soon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
James was not much of a rugby player himself, so she obviously gets all her skill from her mother.
James was
And hopefully
fucking.
her sense of humour.
He was shite and he supports Connacht, so we'd leave him off. Victoria, there was one thing that flashed up on your documentary, No Woman, No Try. I'll keep saying it because I want people to watch it because it's well worth a watch. And I just want to ask you: is it still relevant? Now I will paraphrase. I'll probably get it wrong, but it was the quote that it's hard to beat your opposition when they're not on the pitch. Do you know the quote I'm talking about, Victoria?
I do indeed.
Right. Is that still relevant, Victoria, do you think, now?
I think it depends where you look. You could say that if you only look at the Red Roses, then their opposition is probably on the pitch. If anything, their pathway is clear, their investment is clear. RFU is investing even more on the basis of turning it in a profit in the next 5 years. They have that plan and that strategy. Could you say that Ireland still struggle? Wales are struggling, although their biggest opponent on the pitch is probably themselves at the moment, which is a shame for them. Yes. Scotland have had real contract issues, so their opponent is their own union at the moment, by the sounds of things. You look at Fiji, look at Samoa, their problem is their unions. Look at the USA, their problem is visibility. An investment and all these things. So technically, yeah, it depends where you look. I'd say, if anything, you have to remove the Red Roses from that discussion. And then, yes, I think it's still relevant across the game.
It's still across the board, Victoria. You would think, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But is the women's game going in the right direction, Victoria?
Oh yeah,
yeah, it is.
81,885 people at Twickenham for a Women's Rugby World Cup final. We are heading in the right direction without question.
For Jesus' sake, what is with people this evening anticipating my questions? For Christ, I can't get right. Anyway, I'm only joking. Dara Weston, your thoughts on this? The quote from Victoria's documentary. You can't beat the opposition, or I can't quite remember what it was, but you can't beat the opposition if it's not on the pitch. Is that still relevant? Victoria kind of agreed somewhat to it outside of the Red Roses. Victoria, I don't want to, put words in your mouth or take you out of context. But Dara, would you agree with what Victoria said about that? The Red Roses. Go on.
I think there's always been that element of the opposition that you don't have on the pitch in rugby. Even if we go back to the national squad, the Irish national squad, where there was a certain number of players from each province had to be picked for political reasons. So that meant that there was players from certain provinces, and they weren't competing against other guys in the pitch. They were competing against boardroom politics. So, yeah, no, I think it is the case. But it's not just kind of, quotas around representation from provinces, etc. But it's the support, the back office team, your physios, your strength and conditioning, your nutritionists, that's, I think, where the Red Roses are so professional, because I remember seeing one of the players, and she was interviewed she was on Jim Hamilton's podcast, and she was saying that I think her contract with the RFU was maybe about £30,000 or £40,000. And then she was also playing with Harlequins. And I think she said, some of the clubs actually didn't pay their women's team really, and some did.
Oh,
But
okay.
her point was that, you know, you're not going to be giving up a day job and supporting yourself and paying a mortgage and everything on 30 or 40,000 pounds. So it's not so much that the money is very professional. The money has a long way to go, probably, to reach where the men, the contracts that they're getting, and the women's team has been much more successful in World Cups recently than the English men's team. But I think the support structures that have been put in place are the backbone of any professional system. I mean, you know, we look at a few years ago, it was one of the lows for Irish women's rugby, you know, where players were getting changed in car parks.
Yes.
You know, because the infrastructure wasn't, or perhaps the infrastructure was there, but nobody planned it. So a person with a key didn't turn up to open the changing rooms. Simple.
No, it's ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
You
ridiculous.
know, so I mean, these are the kind of things. And I mean, if you know, if you're being, you know, if you don't have that, if you have all the support and all the infrastructure behind you, you go out on the pitch feeling 10 foot tall. But, you know, conversely, if you don't, you automatically go out feeling there has to be a bit of niggling of underprepared or a bit of resentment, you know, that I'm being treated like shit, yet I'm going out and I'm going to have to play my guts out for the next 80 minutes.
Yeah, I think underprepared is the best way to look at it. Like, your preparation has been worrying about things, not dead focused on what you need to do to perform. So even if you're not thinking I'm not ready, your mindset has been elsewhere. You are distracted inherently, like changing in car parks or not having the kit that you need or not getting paid or and you're right, the funding is like that. I had a friend who played for Harlequins women over 100 times. So she earned about £1,000 a year, which doesn't cover her petrol through the year just to go to training and back, let alone the kit, the boots, but she's considered semi-professional because she is paid.
Is that serious, Victoria? £1,000 a year.
But they have a salary cap like the men's game does. But let's say it's £60,000 a year. That's all your players, and that's some backroom costs, some backroom staff, all of that kind of thing. Where's the money go? If you need 40 players on your roster, and you've only got £60,000, but you need to pay your Ellie Kildunn £10,000, £12,000 a year just to keep her because England Rugby are paying her enough, but you've still got to pay her. Well, you're already down £12,000 before you've gone to the 39 other players that you need.
Yes.
So the money starts to run out really, really quickly. Yeah. And then what do you do? Well, you get to the last players on the list and go, well, we still need a backup prop, another hooker or whatever. You still need these people and you have to have a set number of them. Well, then you're running down to, we can only pay you £1,000 a year. You are still paying to play, but you are considered a semi-professional rugby player.
Wow.
So
wow.
That's why I say you take the Red Roses pin out, but you're not taking out the women's Premiership level because there's too much of a gap between your examples, your Ellie Kildunns, your Red Roses players, to somebody who's just broken through or whatever. They're not getting paid. They're driving to and from work, eating dinner in the car. Like, I used to commute. So I used to work in the city when I played for Harlequins. Training for most players started at 4 p.m. They do gym sessions and individual work. I didn't finish work until 6 p.m. It took me an hour to get to Guildford. So I arrived at training at 7 p.m. I'd have to eat en route because otherwise you've got nothing in you since lunch, not getting home till midnight. So I'd run in my suit because I had an office job, run straight into analysis, sit down, do the analysis. Everyone else has already done a gym session and individual work and had food and been there for 3 hours. Then I'd get changed. We'd all run out on the pitch, do a 2-hour training session. Everyone goes home. But I've got to be back at work in the city before 8 a.m. So I've got to be in the gym. I think I just froze. Sorry, I've got to be in the gym at like 6:30. Well, 6 to be done by 7:30 to be at my desk by 7:45. It's just it's not sustainable, and that's the problem. So yeah.
So Victoria, it is a passion to play the game, really, because you're not doing it for monetary reward, really.
No,
You're
not at all. There's no player yet in the women's game who has only done it for monetary reward. There are players who are now financially benefiting from it, 100%. But there are a handful, not the given. So yeah, that I think that comes back to like the very beginning of the conversation. The social media for why the women's sport's growing more. It's because they've inherently had to find more ways of earning money, and social media nowadays is a damn great way to do that. So it means the eyeballs on the game grow faster and in a different way. And it's not TV audiences, it's not the Telegraph and the Times, it's TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
I was going to start an OnlyFans account, Victoria, but I failed miserably because I misunderstood what the whole thing was about, to be honest.
Okay. Do you not try feet pictures?
No, I didn't. No, I put on my Leinster jersey and I went, okay, OnlyFans, what's this all about? And just nothing. So I don't know.
But that, apparently, it originally started as a website for bands.
Yeah.
And for people to sign up and get exclusive behind the scenes, access to tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Apparently that was the original design for the website.
I'm almost certain it still does that, but obviously everything else has
it's overshadowed slightly.
Yeah.
Now, come here, just a comment. Sorry, Dara, 1 sec, and then I'll let you go on what you're going to say. Mark Noonan, hiya, Mark. All those suggestions around game day are great. Sign me up for brunch. Well done, Victoria. You are a brilliant ambassador for the game. There you go. Now, go on. Sorry, Dara, I interrupted.
So I was going to ask Victoria about the Sir Mike Tyndall and
Jesus Christ, another.
No, will you second get to it then? We're 40 minutes in. As we've just been talking about the salaries and the constraints on wages. So come on, ask your question then, or I'll ask it.
Go on, I'll let you ask it. Go on.
Okay. So do you think that, I mean, we've been talking about R360 and how, how is it going to work? And, obviously we saw it as a threat because, it could be like Live Golf. They haven't said where the money's coming from, but if the money's coming from the Gulf states, there'll be plenty of money thrown at it. In the men's game, you'll probably get the likes of, All Blacks who are coming to the end of their career, internationals who are coming to the end of their career, like Dougie Howlett did when he came to Munster. Players like that who join it. But in the R360 plan, there's also 160 women players.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've discussed on the show before is, like, say the Premiership is one of the top women's leagues in the world. I mean, I'd say it's probably better than the Kiwi Women's League. If they were to take the likes of Ilona Maher, Ellie Kildone, even if they were to take 20 players out of, well, they're not going to take 20 realistically. If they're looking for 160, they're probably going to take at least 40 or 50 out of the Premiership. That's going to put a massive hole in those women's teams. And obviously, if the salary caps in the Premiership are ridiculously low for the women's game, I mean, you'd be stupid not to take a massive payday if you got the chance to go to R360 for 2 or 3 years and then come back. But I mean, one of the things we were saying before is that obviously that could have a major impact on the momentum that women's rugby has just achieved, and the strength that the Premiership has, on the back of Phil and Twickenham for the World Cup final.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's hard to know what happened. I don't think you'll lose 50 players from the PWR. I just don't see it being possible. Like we just said, the women aren't playing for money. They're playing because they want to play for their country. And that driver, I genuinely believe, unless they're going to hand all 50 of them, like 200 grand contracts a year, it's very unlikely exactly. That's not going to happen. That these kids are going to go, I'm going to give up the opportunity to play for my country one day for a paycheck when I'm 18, when I can wait, play for my country and plan on like retiring. Like Shauna Brown, for example, retired after the 21 in 22 World Cup. I'd put money on it. She would have gone into an R360 for a season or two, but because she'd already done everything she wanted to do. So I think the only players you'd end up getting are the ones on the brink of retirement who won't necessarily play for their country again. And that's fine. I don't think that's really a problem because there's enough young players coming through that, yes, okay, it would still have a dent of some description. But like Marley Packer, for example, was in the Red Roses squad, played one match of the whole tournament. So kind of an indicator that will she be playing for the Red Roses ever again? Having been captain, probably not. Someone comes along and offers her 100 grand to go into R360 for 2 seasons. That's more money than she's probably ever earned, other than maybe her World Cup bonus. Of course she would do it. Would that impact salaries? Probably not. So I kind of feel like there's an opportunity for them to nick at least 2 on the brink of retirement players and not have too much of an impact from the game.
Would you have done it, Victoria?
Fuck yeah. Sorry. Didn't ask
Yeah, no, you're allowed. Jeez, fucking.
Would any of us?
Watch the watershed. If your kids are watching, it's on you.
Yeah.
God, yeah, absolutely, I'd have done that. I wasn't good enough by any stretch of the imagination, but if I was good enough and I was young enough and I was still playing, oh, absolutely, I'd go do that. Because there's also a lot right now. If you're the first group of players that go, you're going to get all that PR. You're going to get all that access to being we're watching you, good or bad, we're watching you, which means the numbers, the followers, the brands all come with you too. So it's a smart play just from that perspective. Lewis Rees-Zammit, why wouldn't he do that? Makes sense.
Victoria, what about the major caveat in the sense that a lot of rugby unions have come out and said, if you join this league, you're not going to play for your country again, or a time frame on it. 10 years, I think, was Australia's.
I've seen one 10
No, I
years.
think they just said you wouldn't be eligible to play while you were playing with R360.
Yeah, so
and Wales didn't sign up for it. So, for instance, France signed up for it, but if DuPont went to R360 for 2 years and came back still in great form, you're not telling me that the French wouldn't take him back into the international squad.
Well, it was only Australia that have so far put a time limit on it. Everyone else has only said you wouldn't be eligible to play for your country. They've not ruled in or out playing for your country ever again. Obviously, the phrasing's really careful there. So
yes,
why wouldn't you? Right, but that's what I mean by the fringe players who are out of country favour for now and potentially on close to retirement in the next 3 years. Why wouldn't you just go and take the cash? Like, surely that makes the most sense. You have to also think about your family and your livelihood and the rest of your life. You've not been paid for 10 years of your career as a woman in rugby. Like, go get that damn paycheck.
I mean, it happens in the men's game too here with the guys taking the money to go to France for a year.
Yeah, what's the difference?
Yeah. What is the difference in reality?
Yeah. Jack Willis, having a great time.
Yeah.
But hold on. This all sounds magnificent, right? But there has been massive, Victoria, I'll come back to you all day on this. There has been massive opposition to the R360 idea, and Mike Tyndall, and with several other of his colleagues, I suppose you could call them, that have come out and criticised it. So, I like. Would you, Victoria, say definitively, if you could, or just your opinion, that the R360 idea is going to go ahead?
I have no way of knowing the answer to that question. I know. It looks like it's pretty good, but then Rugby 10's got really close to going ahead and all the other stuff that's ever happened. So if you go by the history of things getting shut down, no. But if you go by the history of it's Mike Tyndall that's running this, and he has, from what I understand, Saudi or Middle Eastern backers, they got more money than the Prem or RF you can argue with. So I doubt they care, to be quite frank with you. If they've got the money to say they have, they'd be like, whatever, we got cash and you've got none. So
no. I want you to be frank. just say what you mean. There's no apologetics here. Dara Weston, we've spoken about this, and Richard Holland, I'll come to you now in a minute. We've discussed this R360 thing on several occasions, and for whatever my opinion is worth, I think it's a load of fucking shite. Dara,
would you say the same thing if they took Finn Russell and you didn't have to watch him play in a Scotland shirt for a couple of years? No, you'd probably be delighted then about R360 because it's taken away one of the players you hate.
I don't hate him. I just don't rate him. There's a difference.
Well, spoofer, as you call him.
Spoofer, yeah.
The sad fact is, and Victoria touched on it there, like, I mean, you know, one of the points Victoria said, you know, is looking at, you know, if they took 50 players out of the Premiership, 200 grand a year, 10 million is probably a drop in the ocean of the budget that R360 will have. And if they are if they have any cop on with Middle Eastern money, they will apportion the budget nearly equally between the men's and the women's game. Now, okay, there's going to be, I think, 220 male players and 160 female players contracted into R360 is what they've said. So it won't be 50-50 because there'll be about 30% more male players. But if you're coming from jurisdictions where, you know, women have long been seen as second-class citizens, etc., there would obviously be that would be the last optic they would want, would be the women to be paid a lot less than the men, because it would undermine. It would be the opposite of sport washing. It would just be reinforcing things through sport.
Yes.
But everybody said Live Golf wasn't going to work, and I think this is what R360 will do. They will go and they will look for those marquee players, the DuPonts, you know, the Reece Samets, you know, they'll go and look, the Alona Mars possibly. They'll go and look for these big names and say, listen, here, how do you fancy $1 million a season? Come on, you're only going to have to play, I think it's 20 weeks they're going to be playing in total during the year, September to February or something like that.
No, September to December, 12
and
weeks.
You're going to be touring around the world, and you'll be flown first class everywhere, and blah blah blah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of them, it's going to be hard for them to actually say no. You know, I mean, Australia have come out, but okay, Australia are on the way up at the moment. But like, I mean, you could potentially get the likes of Slipper, who goes in there, you know, now that he's played his last game for the Wallabies anyway. So, I mean, he could go into it, collect a nice paycheck for a couple of months or a year.
Quite the other one.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I mean, there's
I think
no,
for it to work, they have to. They can't rely on the players who are running off, you know, their last years of the game. They'll have to get a couple of big name marquee signings like Live Golf did, you know, a couple of the younger players, things like that. And a couple of big names, because otherwise they won't get the following they want. So, you know, as much as I don't want it to happen, because it's going to be divisive, and rugby is just kind of getting its shit together and actually, you know, increasing the exposure of the women's game, and, you know, the men's game as well is going through a lot of financial difficulties and coming back. You know, I think it's something that probably will happen. All
right, Richard Holland, any thoughts on this? I know we're going over all ground here because.
But Dara kind of alluded to it. There is from my point of view, from an ethical point of view, is where the fuck is the money coming from? You know, that for me is a big thing.
Well, we know where it's coming from.
I know, but I don't begrudge. Yeah,
dinosaur juice in the sand.
Yeah, I don't begrudge the players the money. But it's where the money is coming from. It's where my big issue is. It's where, effectively, if you're a woman, you're a second-class citizen, and that just doesn't wash with me. I'll be honest with you. And I know you don't like it, but the last Football World Cup, the last Soccer World Cup, I refused to watch it because of where it was.
Same.
Pure and simple. And it's the first one I've missed since 1990. You know, so to me, it's just it's an ethical thing for me. I'll be honest. And Live Golf, I'll be honest, is the same thing. I don't begrudge the players the money, but it's where the money is coming from is where I have the problem.
But will that, Richard? I admire your honesty, and I would agree with you. But do you think that would resonate amongst the rugby community?
That's the other thing. We spoke to Mike Ruddock here a couple of weeks ago about, in particular, the games between the Welsh clubs and the likes of Bristol, and where there was a history there. There was a proper rivalry. Where are them right? We have a match this weekend, Munster and Leinster. Where will that where will the rivalries come from? That's another side of it too. That there's no history in the game, or whatever way you want to put it. There's no history to the matches.
Yeah,
I think what they'll do is they'll do like Live Golf, where there'll be a captain, so like Sergio Garcia's team or the Spanish team, and so if they got Dupont, that would attract some of the French fans. Then they'll go for a high caliber Irish player that would attract the Irish fans, etc. But like from what Richie was saying as well, look at the Saudi football league. You have Cristiano Ronaldo. He's the only man in Saudi Arabia who hasn't been arrested for living with somebody he's not married to. Because it's illegal in Saudi Arabia to live together if you're not married. Ronaldo's not married to his girlfriend, but because he's a billionaire, mainly through the money he's made from moving to Saudi and getting paid a fortune over there, they're willing to look the other way because he's doing great things for the Saudi image playing soccer over there.
Yeah, but on that, they're also playing in front of 200 fans.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Basis.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just a comment, Mark Noonan, again, directed at you, Victoria. If your next, I think we covered this, but anyway, if your next documentary isn't a part 2, what are you looking at doing next? Thanks for coming on the show, Victoria. You've been a great guest. Do I
have to turn up late? No, I'm kidding. I would, if I was going to do another one, I would do more of the stories about other unions and other nations, because there's plenty of stories to tell. That if I had to pick one, that's what I'd do right now.
Would you be interested in the story of a rugby podcast that took off during COVID, and then they started launching live versions of podcasts where they went around clubs and pubs doing it? It's a
I'm sure there's something in there. I'm sure.
Yeah,
there quite possibly is.
Pete, I just wanted to just on the note of the women's game. When I was playing rugby for my local club, you had the underage, you had first and seconds. There was no women's game up until I think 7 years ago, and now they have a first and second women's team, which is absolutely tremendous. It's unbelievable. In the space of 7 years, they've gone from not having a women's team to having 2. As well as a full cohort of underage.
Yeah. I know, it's brilliant. I mean, look, we as a group, as a podcast, we are always promoting and supporting women's rugby. Our colleague Claire plays rugby herself, and she was at the Women's World Cup final. Yes, absolutely, yeah. Well, come here.
Just on Richie's point, one of the things about the clubs is that the women's teams, the way the male teams tend to drop off during the secondary school years because players are more focused on the school system, so they don't really play for the clubs. But there's actually more teenage girls teams in clubs than there are any kind of like boys under 16s teams.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's not the competition with the school system.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good point, Daria. Mike Shady, hi, Mike. Going to destroy rugby over money. Players should boycott these. Don't know about women. Also, most dangerous place in the world. Okay.
Thing is, Mike, would any of us turn down more money to go and do our job somewhere else?
Probably not.
And they're not going to be playing it over there. They're going to be touring around the world. I mean, if I got offered the chance to tour around the world and do my job for twice as much, I think I'd say okay.
Sign me up.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last point before we go on to the games coming up this weekend. Victoria, I put it on the list. The role that social media plays in this we had Luke Pierce on the show 3-4 weeks ago, and it was mentioned this whole idea of the abuse that referees get online, Victoria. If they have, they're only doing a job, but if they have, from the fans' point of view, a perceived bad game, is there anything that can be done? There's another show for you, Victoria. That social media abuse with referees and all that, sports people. There you go. But is there anything, Victoria, that can be done to stop that, or is it just inevitable?
Inevitable, I guess, in a way, yeah, but also there's a basic level of respect in rugby that we've always had that made us better than football, and then it came to referees, and I think we forgot about it. Like, I am a referee fan. I know a few of them, and I'm in their corner. I think the abuse they get is horrendous, which is why I've started making referee content. One part of that is to make the game more accessible, because who the hell understands whatever's happening all of the time? But also because I think the reason referees it's easy to abuse them is they have no personalities, because they're not allowed them. And if they're not seen as a person, they're just seen as the object.
Nigel Owens, Victoria. Nigel Owens.
But wasn't in the social media era, so didn't get the abuse that they get now. And now he is in the social media era. He's all on TV, like, here's what's right, here's what's wrong, take a dig at this ref, don't take a dig at that ref. So he may as well be as bad as any other person at this point. And I'm a big Nigel fan, by the way, but his whistle watch thing, I think, is a load of rubbish. If you're not a ref, you can't suddenly be weighing in on the new laws, because that's just not acceptable, especially if you're going so-and-so had a bad game. That doesn't make it more accessible. It opens the door to more abuse. If you look at referee abuse, if they have a bad game, it tends to be because one team lost, not because they actually had a bad game. And so you could look at how fickle it is. 1 week they like Carl Dixon because the Springboks won. The next week they don't because the Springboks lost. It's got fucking to do with the referee and everything to do with who won. Yeah. So it's kind of that simple for me. So I think social media can help. It also is the problem, but that's why I say give refs a personality, let them speak out, let them be able to just be themselves. Like, every player can make a TikTok dance. Why the hell can't referees make a TikTok dance? Like, what's the difference at the end of the day? Yeah. Referees. Olympics. The Olympics. At the Olympics, they did referee walkouts the same way they did player walkouts. It was the best thing ever. Like, they didn't have any control over it. It wasn't done in a way that they were supposed to walk, but they had to walk out too. So they were strolling out with the ball in front of a sold out Stade de France, like, this is our moment, and it was so good. Also, by the way, there's a market for referees on the internet. Their women in the comment sections can be feral. It's very funny.
I tell you what, Victoria, I've never met you personally, but I like you. I like you a lot. I like your attitude and what you just said there. Great points and well made. Dara Weston.
Yes,
this whole I think we spoke about this before. The social media abuse that referees get. Anything that we can do to, anything that could be done to stop it or arrest it.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. If you're at a game in, the RDS or the Aviva or Twickenham or the Stoop or wherever it may be, and you shout out the referee's a wanker, you'll probably get a couple of people around you go, shut the fuck up, or what are you saying, or something like that. But unfortunately, once you're on the internet, everybody's anonymous and they can say whatever they want, and they live under their little bridge and they're just a troll and they go and they say things. And my big fear is that it will actually put off young people. It'll put off the supply chain of referees, because they'll see, how vicious it can get to some. And yeah, I mean, to Victoria's point, I remember getting Nigel Owens' autograph after a Leinster game. It was a Leinster-Ulster game. And we were walking outside the stadium and he was walking out and I was like, Nigel, can I get your autograph? And he was like, yeah. And he was chatting away and it was grand. We invited him to go for a pint with us and he said, no, I have to go catch this flight. There's certain countries in the Southern Hemisphere that never seem to have got the memo about the respect for the referees. Or maybe
South
rugby
Africa. South Africa.
yeah. Or maybe rugby has just exploded so much that they just assume, oh well, referee, he must do football one week and rugby the next week or something like that. When we had Luke Pierce on there recently, it was I said to I was glad I wasn't on the show because I'm used to calling referees sir. That was always when you were playing, yes sir. Yeah. And then just skulk away, and hope he didn't see you give the other prop a dig. So look, I think the genie's out of the bottle. I mean, I think it was Luke said on that show that, look, you just kind of don't look at social media, and just, it's kind of water off a duck's back because it's part of his job, and all that. But then he said sometimes people will say things about his family or his kids. And, that's overstepping it. So, I mean, it is, I don't think it's anything because when it's a physical person, you can go, right, you're banned from attending matches. The stewards can pull them out of the crowd and say, you're banned, get out. But when it's somebody on the internet who's like Gavin Henson fan 47 or something like that, not Gavin Henson like particular.
No, I know.
Anything in particular, some random name. How do you identify who that person is?
Well, you can't.
Comments and threats.
There is software that's doing
it's only
that.
if it's a serious threat then that they can go and get the police involved.
They charged a South African lad for the abuse he sent Tom Foley after the Rugby World Cup final.
Well, that's good.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. There's some software that they can plug into their social channels. That hides the direct messages that can, if they can use it to source the person. So, yeah, I think don't want to get into the conversation, but the whole idea of having ID checks on social accounts isn't. Everyone thinks it's for people to keep an eye on you. It's not. No one gives a shit what the day-to-day person is actually up to. Nobody cares. They really want to find you. They'll find you on every camera outside your house. ID checks, I think, are really important for social media to make sure if you decide to abuse a person, well, we know exactly who you are. If you did it on the street, it would be the same thing. So, yes, there are pros and cons, and I don't want to get into that conversation at all. But I think
it
would be a very useful tool to be able to track down the abuse online and really cut it out, because all abuse would then clearly be bots, not people.
The
other thing I would say is that you're going to be a referee, and nothing against Ben Whitehouse, but his name is quite unfortunate in that it rhymes with Whitehouse. So if you're thinking of becoming a referee, possibly have a name like, don't say your name is J. Arthur Anchor and decide to become a referee.
Richard Holland, before we go on to our last, very briefly, go on, Rich.
Just briefly, I think it's important to point out that the referees are human. They make mistakes, like everybody else. And unfortunately, in particular when it comes to international games or big international games, if they make a mistake, everyone sees it. And unfortunately, there are, and it's been since the birth of the internet, there has been the keyboard warrior who, what would you know about this? Is a fella who might have played seconds rugby for a season and a half, and he thinks he's an expert on everything. You know.
Yeah. Also, it's easy to see what happened when you've got slow-mo and 15 different camera angles.
But that's the thing. To a certain extent, because the TMOs are generally the anonymous person in the van, and we don't really you hear their voice, but most people wouldn't know who the TMO is for the match. Like when the French girl wanted to take a nibble of Aoife Wafer's arm, I mean that was shown in the fucking stadium on the screen. How the TMO didn't catch that from the replay as well and then bring it to the referee's attention, so I mean, but the referee got most of the abuse for that.
That was a men's TMO as well. That wasn't a TMO from the women's game. That was a normal men's rugby match TMO who does international matches. Like, that was somebody who could and should have picked it up.
Actually, did I see that Holly Davidson is making a bit of history? She's going to be taking charge of an All Black game. She's
brilliant.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, she's phenomenal and a really brilliant person too. So it's really nice to see it happen. Not that makes any difference to whether or not she's good at it, but when you're like, you deserve that. Like, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, folks, we are way over time as per usual, and just our last topic of the evening, which is now, Victoria, you can say you haven't a clue, don't care, couldn't give a bollocks, right? But I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you anyway. There are games. We normally do this at the end of every show. The games coming up at the weekend. All the Irish provinces are playing. You can just randomly say something, Victoria.
What
Whatever
I'm
you
going
think.
to do.
No, or
Monster.
whatever.
Monster. Just say a monster.
No, but if you have an opinion, or you know,
Give me
please,
all the teams. Give me the
no,
teams.
I don't know. I don't know. Now, hold on.
Oh.
Here we go.
The only thing we
Connacht-
don't tolerate is calling draws and sitting on the fence. We don't. We
Yes.
don't approve of that.
Now, Victoria, you can't say draw and sit in the fence because you can't have splinters in your arse. Okay, right. Now, here we go. Connacht are playing the Bulls, Victoria. Who is winning that?
Connacht, because I haven't heard of the other one.
All right. Okay. The Sharks are playing. Go
We're
on,
talking URC here, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Oh,
URC.
you're
Yes.
talking
Yes.
South African Bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there was
Yes,
an
yes.
Irish team for a second. Okay,
No,
fine.
no.
Ah, no. Sorry.
I've got it. I understand the game. The Bulls.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Victoria. Sorry, the mea culpa. I should have specified it was the URC. The Sharks are playing Ulster, Victoria.
Oh, the Sharks.
Sharks at home.
Sharks.
All right. Okay. And the big interpro of the weekend, Leinster are entertaining Munster, Victoria. Careful, careful.
I'll go Leinster because they're the majority of the Irish team, aren't they?
Excellent, nice one. I
Exactly.
like you. I like even more, Victoria. Dara Wesson.
15 of the Ireland squad for the autumn internationals is Leinster or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Something like
And,
that.
and there's a few Leinster-born players that we loaned out to other provinces in the squad as well.
Well, there. Okay, all right. Okay, let's not. Jesus Christ, we'll be
representation.
here all night. Stop, Dara. Hold on, one second. Dara. Connacht v Bulls.
Depends what the weather's going to be. If it's going to be a wet and windy night over in Galway, I think Connacht could do it.
It's the west of Ireland, guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, it's generally wet and windy over there, so I'll say Connacht.
All right. Okay. Sharks are entertaining Ulster, Dara.
Yeah. Ulster traveling down to South Africa. This is their first game, isn't it? They were at home last weekend. Yeah, so I think, I think the Sharks will beat them.
Okay, and the Interpro, Dara, I don't know if you're going to it. Leinster are playing. Well, oh, good man. Leinster are playing.
I'm going
Munster.
with my wife's father, but thankfully we're sitting in different sections of the stadium because he's a Munster man. Leinster will be the only team doing any entertaining at the match, and I would say Leinster by 2 scores.
Okay, excellent.
What kind of
Thanks, Dara. Sorry,
What kind of
Victoria.
You said
Oh, 2 tries. So at least 10 points. I'd say 10 to 14.
Oh, okay. Controversial there by the Weston fella. Richard Holland, to you. Connacht are entertaining the Bulls out west.
I'm going to take Connacht just about to shade that. Just about. It'll be a close one.
3-5 points.
3 to 6. 3 to 6.
3 to 6. Okay. All right. Sharks are entertaining Ulster down in South Africa.
Ulster generally don't travel well down there, so I can't see anyone but the Sharks winning that.
Okay, and my team, Dara's team, are playing your team in the Interpro. Leinster are entertaining Munster. Go on, Richie.
So who am I going to go for? Only Munster. I go for Munster by a score, by 7.
Oh, you're fucking full of shit. But Munster by 7.
Munster by 7. And Crowley to play an absolute barnstormer of a game.
Right. Okay, folks. That is all we have time for. We are. Jesus Christ, we're nearly 15 minutes over time, folks. My thanks are our thanks are to you for watching. Your comments that came in there, I didn't get around to all of them. My thanks are to.
He wanted to know why Dara was wearing a condom on his head.
It's by Leinster. It's part of the premium season ticket holders pack. There was a blue beanie and a blue notebook.
I'm not sure that made it better.
No, I don't think.
Team
No, I
response.
agree with you, Victoria. Yes, I don't think that made it better yet. No.
No.
Okay,
No,
so my
team-
thanks. Oh, God.
I'm married to a Munster woman, so I'm not really allowed a lot of Leinster gear in the house. So
Okay, can I finish? Are you all right?
you can just talk over me.
I'm not talking over you. I don't like. I hate interviews. Anyway, my thanks are to Richard Holland, to Dara Weston, and our very special guest. She has been entertaining. She has been informative. She has been a great guest. Victoria Rush, the producer and director of the documentary, which you can all watch. It's on Amazon Prime. No Woman, No Try. Victoria Rush, thank you so much for your time. It has been our pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Go on, Dara.
Thank you.
Peter, can I just say as
Oh,
well?
God, go on, yeah, go
obviously,
on.
to everybody, the show will be up on Spotify if you can subscribe on Spotify. And also, when we post the show in the groups and on Spotify, we'll put a link to Victoria's film on Amazon.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay,
Thank you.
there you go. Okay, right, folks.
Thank you very much,
Go
everyone.
on. Good luck. I need a piss. Go away.
Thanks,
Talk to you
Victoria.
Good luck.
TMI.
Bye. Bye.